Hey guys, welcome back. We have a weekend energy update that we need to get into as we continue to make our way through this holiday season. This weekend energy is kind of all over the place a little bit. Each day sort of has its own specific vibe to it, different things going on. Friday is a day where there could be some shakeups happening. There's a strong Uranian influence. We actually have Uranus featured 3 ways in our energy for Friday, which we're going to talk about in our video for today. But love and money, there could be some shakeups going on in those regards, and also plans, parties, occasions, social events like dinners, stuff like that may not exactly go as planned. There could be some changes of plans that happen maybe unexpectedly, or people could be pulling out of things, plans, events, and stuff like that as well. So we'll get into that in the report. On Saturday, we have more of this mutable T-square energy that has been persisting, that we've been talking about. Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn again being featured on Saturday in their very tight T-square together as the moon transits through Sagittarius. We need to talk about that and all that might be presenting for us in the energy of Saturday. And then on Sunday, we have another very Chiron oriented day. Chiron actually is stationing in the sky, stationing direct. He's been retrograde since the end of July. Whenever we have a strong Chiron influence, this of course can be kind of like pressing on our wounds a little bit. It could be a bit of a more emotionally sensitive day, but I do think that we're going to be ready to release something, move on from something, finally heal from something. So we'll talk about it. But all in all, you guys, pretty busy weekend. Obviously, there's quite a bit going on that we need to talk about. So let's do that. Let's get into our report, put it all together, see where we're going and what things might be looking like for us as we prepare to head into next week and next year. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Friday, December 27th, 2024. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the weekend, where we are narrating the shift of the ages. In this video, we're going to talk about all the astrology that is playing itself out there between Friday and Sunday this weekend, as we are actually closing out our new moon in Sag cycle, preparing to enter our new moon in Capricorn cycle coming up here tomorrow, actually on Monday, December 30th. And of course, we also have a new calendar year beginning just a couple of days after that. So actually, from an energetic perspective, this weekend we are closing out a couple of different cycles, our current new moon lunar cycle that we are in, and also this calendar year. So we've got endings being represented here just by those two things that are happening at the same time. And also we've got, of course, aspects and transits going on that are indicating being at a turning point as well. We have Saturn and Jupiter at a square right now. This sort of is a critical crossroads in things. We've been talking about it, actually talked about a lot about it last week. And we also have Chiron stationing in the sky on Sunday, the day before this new lunar cycle that will begin on Monday. And that's talking about the completion of something as well. Some maybe set of experiences, some maybe lesson, difficult lesson, painful lesson that maybe we've been learning or working through over this past couple of months. Chiron stationed retrograde in July, in the end of July. So the end of July through now, we've been going through something that has Chiron in the sign of Aries, been for the purpose actually ultimately of re-empowering us on some level. So the conclusion of that, whatever that experience was, making its way into our lives this weekend as well. So, I think that we are going to be ready moving into next week and this new year, and maybe some refreshing ways to finally be ready to let go and move on from some things. And it's also interesting because I was picking up on this sort of note of the energy all week that has been sort of encompassing our holiday season this year, where there's just this little key or this little note or little vibration or tingling or whatever of an inner knowing that something has run its course, something has come to the end. this maybe like bittersweet notion, or just like I said, you know, this inner knowing that it's just not going to be the same after this. Like maybe like traditions, or, you know, we've had a way of always doing things, or even, you know, relationships, stuff like that could be an epicenter of this change going on as well. But I feel like the energy field has just been kind of indicating that for some reason going forward, things are not going to be as they've always been. And for some reason, maybe that having been more notable as we moved through this holiday week this year. And then again, you know, as we're wrapping up the final days of this 2024 year, preparing to move into this new calendar year, also preparing to move into this new lunar cycle that's happening right before that, Chiron stations direct. And I just feel like, you know, something that we've been working through, something that we've been working on, and probably, you know, maybe on like a deeper, more emotional level with the energy having been retrograde, like some phase of healing, integration, release, or finally being done with something. Now, this is also indicated to me by the energy that we have going on Friday. Now, if you listened to my intro, I was talking about how each day this weekend, we've kind of got like distinct energy going on. Each day is, you know, varying in what is kind of energetically being featured, and it's probably going to be shifting day by day by day. It could also be just a busy weekend where there's sort of a lot happening, but it could kind of honestly be a bit of a mess out there as well. We don't have energy really any of the days that is indicating things just being very smooth and streamlined and going according to plan. We've got a very strong Uranian influence, Uranus 3 ways featured in the energy of Friday, and completely colored and saturated by the Venus energy as well. So that leads me to believe Friday could again be emphasizing this like being done with something, like coming to the point of no return, or just realizing that whatever it is, like we just don't want it anymore, totally like losing attraction to something and going in a radically different direction. Also, of course, when we're dealing with a Uranian influence, shakeups, especially, and like changes to plans, unexpected changes in plans and stuff like that, especially having to do with, of course, like parties, gatherings, celebrations, social this, that, or the other, dinner plans and stuff like that. People could be acting real weird, and I think pulling out, canceling plans, deciding that they're just not going to be there maybe at the last moment. So be adaptable, be adjustable, go with the flow as much as you can this weekend. But again, there seems to be like some level of permanency that is coming through in terms of the like abrupt changes that people may be having in terms of just like what they're wanting to involve themselves in with, like starting now and carrying really through this next new year. Like this is a very good actually new year to make some resolutions. I think that resolutions made around this time of year, maybe a couple days before the new year, but maybe are like stated or put out there alongside the new year, are going to be more resolute than maybe in other January 1st New Year's. Okay, so endings could be a thing that's going on right now. We also have this mutable square, this mutable T-square with Mercury, Gemini, or Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn being real highlighted and triggered, again, activated by the moon transiting through Sagittarius on Saturday. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And then, of course, as I mentioned, I've already spoken about on Sunday, this is when Chiron stations. So Friday, we've got Uranus and all the ongoings, which I'll get into more detail within a minute. Saturday, we've got this T-square back in action. Sunday, we have Chiron stationing. And actually, I should probably start out talking about Thursday, because in my last video, the one for Christmas Day, I didn't really get too much into the energy of Thursday. So yesterday on Thursday, we had another exact Mercury-Jupiter opposition. You know, these planets have been coming closer into opposition since Mercury stationed direct in Sagittarius and now has come back to the point of opposition with Jupiter and Mercury, sign of Gemini. Remember, these two planets are currently in mutual reception, so there's like a special synastry going on between the Mercurial and the Jupiterian energy right now, but they are both being squared by Saturn. Now, generally, when we have Mercury and Jupiter in an opposition, especially in a mutual reception together, this would be very uplifting energy. We could even, get a bit carried away perhaps in some grand vision or big ideas, seeing everything through a supersized lens of like hope and optimism, overflowing with opportunity, choices, potential. However, when we've got this square to Saturn playing out, which we do, there's just like always something or somebody out there trying to like rain on our parade, interfere with our plans, like block our ability to do what we wanted to do, like point out every little like flaw and criticism about our idea, like have every reason already listed under the sun, why our plans are doomed for failure. And like we just can't seem to get away from that type of thing when we've got this type of specific influence going on. Something, interference, generally interfering with our ability to be carefree, to have a good time, to be like optimistic and hopeful. Instead of that, it's more like frustrations, delays, arguments, pressure, responsibilities, like harsh criticism or judgment to our ideas, to our plans, to our opinion, maybe even like travel or communication. And it could also feel like our just general ability to grow or expand or to move forward with a project, maybe just in a new direction, anything is being blocked, being held back for some reason. And also with Jupiter being retrograde right now, with Mars also being retrograde right now, energetically, this is just like not a time of things moving forward that are new. This is a time of things that got off track or that were not done properly or that were flawed in their initial execution somehow, needing to be like readdressed, reorganized, like rearranged, fixed. This is, as I've been saying, this is a time of corrections. This is a time of adjustments. This is a time of making changes to the way that things had been done, so that actually when we do come to the point in time that is supporting this new growth in this forward direction, it's like so that our foundations and what everything is built upon is like stable and sturdy, so that when we move forward, things can get a successful outcome in alignment maybe with that vision that we've got now. But it's just not a great time. Like, this is just not a time when things are like moving forward with ease, and it could really be presenting in terms of just these frustrations and feeling like, maybe no matter what we do, or no matter how hard we work on something, or no matter how long we work on something, like it's just not moving forward, gaining the momentum, having the growth that we would expect. And of course, all of the frustrations that can come from having experiences aligned with that as well. But ultimately, we cultivate patience and endurance and the will to succeed when we go through experiences like that, which are also very valuable for some reason, apparently, at this point in time as well. So regardless of why we're needing to experience the delays, if things are needing to be fixed, if they're needing to be rearranged, like if there's missing pieces that still need to come in, if we need to like address something, they be like the errors that we've been making perhaps, or if we are just learning these lessons in alignment with the patience and endurance that it takes to, persevere through things and see them to completion. It really is about lessons and the like karmic nature of the way that things are going to unfold going forward when we're talking about strong Saturnian influences. Also the Jupiter Saturn square, a couple videos ago I was talking about that energy is also sort of bringing us to a point of essentially like seeing how far we've come, seeing what we've learned, and seeing how we're going to like implement what we've learned over the period of time that has been represented. So, and in this particular Jupiter Saturn cycle, it's between December of 2020 and now, like, what have we learned over the past 5 years, and how are we going to use that to set ourselves up for success moving into the next 4 to 5 years, while these planets come into their opposition, marking the midpoint of the cycle that that they began together back in December of 2020. And Jupiter-Saturn cycles have to do with a 20-year era of our lives where we are essentially building a vision into reality somehow. We are manifesting something. It's manifestation energy. Saturn is the force that controls and it structures and it lays foundations, and Jupiter is about the vision. And when we put these two energies together, it is an energy that helps us to grow and to gain wisdom and to gain understanding and to integrate that into how we are moving through the world, essentially what we're building, what we're forming. And depending on what area of life, what house that conjunction occurred in, has a lot to do with the way that, you know, all of us are manifesting and using this energy and the lessons that we are learning over this 20-year span that's represented by the cycle between these two planets. Now, collectively, this was a conjunction that happened at 0 degrees of a sign of Aquarius. It's about doing something in a radically different way, and also in alignment with a higher potential maybe than we had considered previously or hadn't even maybe an awareness of up until this point of time. It's when we're talking about 0 degrees of Aquarius, this is about something radically new, but it's also unlocking like a layer of destiny or higher purpose in association with it. And it's all about the mind as well. It's gaining an awakening or a new awareness about something. So wherever you have 0 degrees of Aquarius in your chart, whatever house that is activating, you're currently working through a 20-year Saturn-Jupiter cycle that is teaching you how to essentially build some vision into reality in a way that is going to like define the path that you're walking moving forward. And as I mentioned, when we've got a Jupiter-Saturn square coming in, this is always a more critical period of time in terms of the choices and the decisions that we make contributing to the way that things do form themselves in regards to our future. It's like there's just a greater level of significance placed energetically in terms of the future path that's going to unfold on the choices and decisions that we make when these two planets are coming to their square together, how we overcome things, how we respond to challenges. And also, like, if we look at the first square, the first harsh connection between these two planets over the course of a 20-year cycle as a test in terms of what we've learned in the first quarter of that cycle, of that transit, are we at a point where we have integrated the lessons and we can move on to this next phase of growth and expansion? Or do we need to continue to interface with these lessons while we move to the midpoint of this cycle? So it's a test as well. You might feel like you've been being tested, and this period of time that as I mentioned also, if you guys caught that video, I'm like going into a whole bunch of detail that I've already talked about in that other video, but I guess it's relevant right now as well. It's a 3-part transit. We had the first hit of that energy in August again, or that was Chiron was the end of July, August. So August and July and things that happened around then could be especially relevant with the ongoings that are happening this week. But that first Saturn-Jupiter square was in July. We had the second one happen in December, and we've got a third one that's coming up in June. And if you guys watched my solstice video, I was also saying, really, the way I see it, you know, between now and June, we are still in this period that is indicating these corrections underway, these adjustments underway. As I was talking about a minute ago, like, universe is essentially like rewiring things so that they can get back on track and go in this direction that we need to, you know, unfold for whatever reason in alignment with right now. But once we get to June, I think that this corrective phase is going to be nearly complete. And that is when things are really going to start moving forward. That is when we're going to really start seeing some growth in terms of the effort that we've been putting into things, maybe, you know, throughout the entire year of 2024. And maybe even back to the year of 2020, to be honest with you. So try not to be too discouraged if you do find yourself just feel like you're like coming up against wall after wall after wall and like needing to like redo things over and over. You know, it could also represent deals that need to be renegotiated right now. People divesting from things. A lot of people are going to be pulling out, realizing that they got ahead of themselves, jumped into something without having like done the research or known enough about it, or, you know, their intention behind it was out of alignment with, I don't know, something now that they're realizing they don't need to be involved in anymore. I don't know, but a lot of people I think are going to be changing their mind about like contracts and commitments and things that they had previously like jumped into and involved themselves with. And I think that this could also be manifesting itself in the context of relationship dynamics in a lot of cases as well. Now that brings me more specifically into what we have going on Friday. As I mentioned, we have Uranus activated 3 ways. This is because the moon is transiting through the sign of Scorpio, forming an opposition to Uranus. Venus in the sign of Aquarius is in hard aspect, exact square to Uranus in Taurus on Friday. And of course, we have this ongoing mutual reception between Venus and Uranus. Uranus transiting through Taurus, Venus's sign, and also Venus transiting through Aquarius, which is Uranus's sign. So we have these 2 planets in each other's signs, which is being activated by their connection, harsh aspect, on Friday as well. And then with the moon there, that's the kicker. And here's the thing, you guys. The moon's in the sign of Scorpio. Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Pluto. Mars is retrograding right now through the sign of Leo, back by the time we get to Friday within a 3-degree orb of Pluto. To me, when I see this lineup out there, what I feel like it's indicating, moon in Scorpio, Mars and Pluto in opposition, and moon opposite Uranus, Venus square Uranus, while they're in their mutual receptions, there could be some powerful emotional impulse to basically just say like, F this, okay? Like, I am over it. I am not doing it anymore. I am no longer interested in literally just be gone, like be total ghost in the situation. Shocking upsets, changes, turns of events. But this is probably going to be most likely because of some type of like head-to-head confrontation, okay? With the moon in Scorpio, like really setting this up with the opposition to Uranus in the square to Venus in Aquarius. So I mean, really there we've got a T-square going on there as well, with the moon opposite in fixed signs, with the moon opposite Uranus and squaring Venus in the sign of Aquarius. And then the thing is, the reason why I'm saying it's like this head-to-head thing is because Mars and Pluto co-ruling the sign of Scorpio, where the moon is in an opposition with each other for the second, coming back for the second time right now. This is also a 3-part transit because of Mars's retrograde, and we're preparing for the second hit of the Mars-Pluto opposition, which is one of the most powerfully confrontational energies that astrology presents us with. So, you know, some of this shocking change, the upsets, the turns of events that could be going on probably could be originating from some confrontation, 2 people just going at it, or also some intense emotional drive to assert ourselves, maybe in the context of other people somehow, or just to make some significant change. You know, like I said, like coming to the end, just not being about it anymore, and choosing to like opt out. Themes of self versus others, and also what is fair could be driving this as well. Of course, when we're talking about Venus, this also has to do with what is balance, what is fair, reciprocity, and again, like people just not being willing to give to a situation anymore if they don't feel like it vibes. Okay, so, and if nothing else, it may just be a really weird day with this strong Uranian influence on Friday, where people are kind of just behaving strangely, like nothing feels right, nothing's going according to plan. There could definitely be like a strong kind of like nervous tension vibe going on out there. Or of course, it could be these more extreme and shocking changes taking place suddenly that really disturb the peace, you know, like rattle up the status quo, and shake a lot of people's feathers. Okay, but lots of nervous energy, I would say, between both whenever we've got a strong dominant Uranian influence, that can really bring this nervous tension and energy, especially with the squares and the oppositions. And also when we've got a strong mercurial situation going on, especially with this T-square and mutable signs, that can also like bring enhanced levels of stress and anxiety and stuff. So there could just be like some anxiety in the air. Try, as I've mentioned, to be adaptable, go with the flow of things this weekend, not force things. Trying to force things is the very, very wrong approach in this energy, but slow down, okay? Give yourself the opportunity to take a time out, or take your time if you need to not participate in things. If you just feel like it would be a better idea for you to opt out of something, especially maybe like something social in this energy, go ahead and do it. Conforming to social pressures is not the thing anymore. Like, that's not a thing. So don't feel obligated. Don't feel like you have to do things. I'm telling you, like, even a lot of people, like people that have agreed to do things, have been planning on things in a while, a lot of people just at the last moment are going to be like, you know what? I can't do it. And that's also a bit of a lesson of the time right now too, with the South Node preparing to end this 1.5-year transit of the sign of Libra. Being able to take our exit from things, not feeling a social pressure to conform, has been a major lesson that we've been going through collectively over this past 1.5 years. So it might be something that you feel like you need to put into practice this weekend as well. Moving into the energy of Saturday, you guys, we are back in the mutable T-square. As I said, moon transiting Sagittarius now, coming into the conjunction with Mercury, almost exactly opposite Saturn, or Jupiter, I mean, almost exactly square Saturn. So all of the joy, or, you know, not, but feeling a lot of people are going to have a lot to say whenever we have or they're going to feel like they have a lot to say whenever we've got a moon Mercury conjunction, especially maybe like in a sign like Sagittarius or Gemini. It can create this emotional need to say what's on our mind, to speak our feelings, maybe express some of these high hopes or this vision or these ideas that we have. But alas, you guys, the square to Saturn, thoughts and feelings are most likely going to be met with some type of like harsh judgment or criticism that is not going to be what we wanted when we felt like we needed to express ourselves. I actually would not recommend going on a sharing spree on Saturday in terms of just like letting whatever's in your mind and heart and soul spill out. The urge is probably going to be there for sure, but you are better off just having a good conversation with yourself, writing it down, introspection, seeking answers from within ourselves and a higher power rather than looking to others to be a listening ear. No one is gonna probably validate your feelings, is what I'm trying to say this weekend. So I just personally wouldn't even give it a shot, because you're likely to end in, again, like more disappointment and not really giving you what you need in the first place. So, you know, keep your truth to yourself if you can help it. Validate yourself, understand yourself, analyze yourself, take responsibility for yourself and whatever changes you might be realizing you need to make right now. And also, though, through that process, rediscover your own sense of self-empowerment as well. I think that personal accountability that leads to personal growth and self-improvement are another one of the lessons that is like encoded in what this experience in alignment with this energy may be bringing into our lives right now. So, you know, that's kind of how I feel about Saturday. On Sunday, we do have the Chiron station going on in the sign of Aries. Now, Chiron and the Black Moon have been in an opposition exactly for like the past about week now, and I've spent a lot of time talking about Chiron energy and how that may have been triggering some of our wounds over the course of this past week. And it's just so interesting to me because now that Chiron and the Black Moon have finally separated, Chiron stations direct. So, and also, it's not just that. I also find it very ironic. The moon in Sagittarius is actually going to be coming into a conjunction with the galactic center on the day that Chiron stations. If you guys know the mythology, the galactic center, the sign, the constellation Sagittarius are the archetypal, like, energetic representation of Chiron himself, because in the mythology, Chiron is actually released from his suffering at the end of his myth by Zeus and allowed to exist forever as the constellation Sagittarius in the sky. So he is released from his suffering and becomes one with the source of galactic wisdom, truth, and life force energy. energy, the wounded healer, teacher, master archetype. So I find it to be very fitting that as Chiron stations, the moon is going to be with the galactic center. And as a result of that, also as we're culminating this lunar cycle, also as we're culminating this calendar year, also as we have hit the quarter waypoint in our Saturn Jupiter cycle, it feels like this point of divine surrender, perhaps, also maybe like divine release, desire for purpose, desire for truth, healing, coming to this point of healing and integration, like gaining maybe some wisdom finally from some of the stuff that we've gone through, and realizing that we're walking down a different path right now, and it's actually made us into this whole different person, and kind of stepping into that between July 26th, which is when Chiron stationed, and now some type of valuable experience has been trying to make its way into our lives, and now it's the time to integrate whatever wisdom and strength that we may have gained through what we went through throughout that period of time. And also, it's interesting because July 26th, that was when Chiron stationed, and we're talking about the first hit of that Saturn Jupiter square happening in August. So essentially, like the end of the summer up through now, some important lesson may have been presented to us somehow. It might not have been an easy one, but when we're talking about Chiron, that is also intrinsically talking about something of great value. So valuable lessons that may be kind of making themselves a bit more clear to us right now, and it's time to integrate whatever wisdom or strength that we may have gained through maybe what we have been through over this past couple of months. Start walking through life with a new sense of self, most specifically perhaps self-empowerment, with Chiron in the sign of Aries. Like, we need to keep in mind the fact that Chiron is transiting the sign of Aries. Chiron is always an energy that brings up like the archetypal hero's journey themes, but I feel like it's even more relevant, especially in the context of maybe like the spiritual warrior. We're talking about Chiron being in the sign of Aries, the sign of the leader, the sign of the pioneer, the sign of the warrior, the sign ultimately of the hero, and like the knight in shining armor. I've also been saying, and with the North Node having transited through the sign of Aries, it's been like a fated hero's journey over really this past year and a half, and we have had in a lot of cases to learn how to be our own knight in shining armor. So that could be a dimension of what we're realizing we may have learned over this past several months with Chiron retrograde, as well as he is stationing on Sunday, how our wounds have made us into who we are today, yet will no longer define the path that we walk going forward. Okay, so it's time to rise up, to embrace what we've learned so far on that hero's journey with Chiron, and start transitioning into acting on it, to becoming it, to really embodying it. You know, like, what self-sabotaging cycles are you finally ready to be done with? What states of victimhood are no longer going to hold you back? What are you no longer willing to settle for? And I think that could be another thing that this Venus-Uranus energy is kind of making clear to us on Friday somehow. How have you healed yourself? Also, that could, when we're talking about Chiron, wounding and healing is also always another major like energetic theme that can come through with this. So I do think, you guys, that all of this is coming together as we conclude our year this year, and setting us up for a new year, new calendar year next year that is, again, as I mentioned at the beginning, much more supportive of some lasting New Year's resolutions. And the fact that we've got the new moon coming in on Monday as well, the day after Chiron stations, it's time to switch things up, to take our power back, and to start doing things differently, even though, and here's the thing, even though it's time for us to start doing things differently, again, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. We don't want to set ourselves up for some type of disappointment, being upset that it's not maybe like turning into more or translating into some type of bigger progress in this moment. We might be starting something now. We might be realizing we need to make some changes now. And I feel like it's kind of like a baby step progression between now and June. Remember, there's something about June in terms of our ability to like finally see the momentum, finally see the gains. A lot of what we're doing right now, it's like a lot of the work. Mars is retrograde, Jupiter's retrograde, Uranus is retrograde. Yes, Chiron is finally stationing direct, and all the other planets are direct right now, but Mars is the energy, the movement, the momentum. Jupiter is the success and expansion and growth. Uranus is still retrograding. Uranus is a galactic fixer, still requiring us to backtrack, putting things right, teaching us things on an internal level that are going to impact the choices and decisions and how we do things and how things unfold moving forward. So we're still in a corrective phase. However, we should be on some level discovering what we need to do to move in a new direction and to start going in that direction, even though we may not see the full progress or results of our efforts come until next June or next summer somehow. So that's really what I think that I have to say about things. I think that as we move into this new year and new week, we're going to start feeling, you know, maybe more wise or powerful or independent in terms of like the version of ourselves that we are getting to know or that we are stepping out in the world based on some of the integration of these experiences that we've been through. And other than that, you know, like I said, things could be frustrating this weekend. It could be a little bit all over the place. Could be going through a time of major flux, but I do think, you know, it's all moving us in the right direction. And really at the end of the day, we probably have less to worry about than maybe we think we do right now. And let's get one more piece of guidance or advice to get us on our way this weekend. What do we need to know? God, Spirit, Universe. What should we keep in our little minds and tell ourselves? It says, you guys, don't fight it. As I said in my report, surrender, adapting, going with the flow. Also, what I was saying in my last report, I surrender to the burden to the Christ within and I go free. Very relevant right now. Okay, don't fight it. Release those subject to bondage. Hebrews 2:15. Whatever type of restriction or bondage you find yourself experiencing, don't fight against it mentally. There you go. That's exactly what this mutable T-square with Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn could be like doing. It could be causing us to just have this mental conflict going on because of things that are holding us back somehow. It says, do not fight it mentally. No, God will open up a new door for you and lead you to peace and freedom. So have faith, you guys. Everything's going to work itself out, and we are at a time of epic change, so nothing is permanent right now. That's what I have to say for the weekend. Hope you guys liked the report. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think that they would also be interested in this type of astrology content. Leave me comments, you guys. I am so grateful for your presence here. I truly appreciate knowing what's going on with you guys out there. If you are having experiences that line up with what I'm talking about in these videos, please let me know in my comment section below. Very, very valuable information to me. Thank you guys. I love you guys. If you want to know what's on this whiteboard, I have a Facebook group where I post images of those boards linked in my description box below. That's where you can find that. And come back with me on Monday, you guys. We've got post-Christmas, pre-New Year energy to get into. As I said, it's going to be a new moon video. We've got the new moon in Capricorn that is coming up here on Monday. So that'll be the next video. You don't want to miss it. I will be back to talk all about it. I will see you guys then. Have a beautiful weekend, and until next time, bye guys.